they'll be doing another stakeholder input meeting in the next couple months. So that I haven't received the invite for that, but we'll just stay in touch with them cooperatively. So there were a few other updates, and then the executive committee asked for a legislative update. So you'll notice at the back, at the end of my report, I provided some updates. Nick and I attended the MParks Directors Legislative Networking Summit this month, and then took that opportunity to meet with Representative Newman, as well as a couple of other representatives. In particular, Luke, we discussed the Item Explorers Trail that will be crossing M45 at 16th Avenue as part of that trail connection, and just asked for his support of that project and future collaboration on that. And then as a follow-up to that project, we had a meeting, Aaron and I had a meeting with Senator Eisenhower and his staff to discuss the project. We provided a broad overview of it, and then they were very excited about supporting it. So we'll continue to follow up on that. And I spoke with the county and deputy administrator about coordinating with our lobbyists on the project as well, and strategizing with them in the future. The included some of the work MParks is doing. So MParks is supporting the recreation passport modernization. There's some information I attached more about that in the background, backup information. They're also really working hard to try to make sure that the trust fund projects are approved in a timely manner. So that's delayed last year, which then delayed our projects by several months. And they're also looking at the licensing reform to try to make it easier at the private process, as we've learned this past year on day camp licensing. So, and then NRPA, I included their action information. They're working to advocate for some federal funding, including Land and Water Conservation Fund that we utilize quite often. So I'm happy to answer any information anybody might have.
Quick question. Do we routinely, I think we do, invite our elected state and federally elected reps and senators to our events like the bridge? That would be Ben Workham and Roger Victory. So, okay, cool. I think it's great that that you all are, reaching out and able to connect with them. So that's awesome.
And that's one of the things that in our projects need to be even trying to identify which
Right.
districts they're in to help us, kind of have an opportunity to provide information on representatives or legislators. We can find those quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Does the lobbyist ever come to Ottawa County? I mean, have you all to get to text in person or whoever it is?
So he does fairly regular, maybe quarterly reports to the commissioners, and then the county administrator provides legislative updates to the board of commissioners.
Heads of departments. Do you ever get to?
So yesterday I had my monthly meeting with the administrator and Ron, and talked about trying to coordinate that. So I'll reach in and try to find a time to provide background on the project and strategize how we can.
Thank you.
And that's for any department. If we get certain things that makes legislative, we go to a lobbyist and he works with us. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else? All right. Do you happen to remember how long the trust fund grants got before they were approved last? Do you guys remember what month it was they finally approved it? Okay, I remember fall, but I couldn't remember what.
So a lot of times we would have them about this time of year. So by the end of June is when they're supposed to, I think, by state, supposed to have the budget done, and a lot of times they get included in there, or they're a standalone. So
with the last legislator, and when it was Democratic majority, they tied it with the budget, and then when they did it last, like last minute. And so.
Yeah, that's right. Gotcha. Thank you. Thanks. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. We'll move on to the park operations report. River.
All right. Well, the summer's underway. We've only had a couple days that feel like summer, but our seasonal staff are in a good spot this year with seasonal staff, and they're all trained, they're all working, so we're ready for those really busy days that are surely coming here very soon. But it's been so far a pretty good summer. Motor vehicle sales have been on the slower side because of the colder weather, but still kind of on par with what's normal. I was gonna try to pull some numbers this morning and have them for this meeting, but the T2 Iris site is down, which is the site that all our fee machines come from. So my guess is we're probably somewhere around 130 to 130 to 150,000 right about this point. But I wasn't able to get that exact number because of T2 is down. But all the booths are now gone from the Lakeshore Parks, so that may not seem like a huge deal, except for those that get told every single day that they had to have a permit because there was nobody in the booth. Now there's definitely nobody in the booth because there are no booths. So other than that, we've got a lot of projects going all around the county. It includes some pictures of the Muscatau Trail, which the state is working on, just to show the progress there. They do appear to be a little bit ahead of schedule, and I'm hearing that they may try to open up it section by section as it's completed, so we may have some sections open yet this summer. But they haven't confirmed that for sure yet. If not, they're hoping the whole project in Ottawa County will be done this fall. Happy to answer any questions about anything else, though.
This is strictly just because I want to know, where did we have a homeless camp?
Paw Paw Park.
Really?
Yeah, it's the probably I think it's the third time since I've been here that we've had a homeless person or family living in Paw Paw. We've had it at Riley, and we've had uh, one other park, Pigeon, as well, since I've been here. So that's why I put out a memo to all staff, letting them know the best way to address unauthorized camping in parks, to make sure that we're doing it with compassion, but also ensure our and safety of our visitors is top priority as well.
What are we doing about the ticks and the tent campers, not being a tent camper, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, issue.
I'll let Nick answer that because he and Neely have.
Yeah, so we had ticks specifically on site 4. So Kurt, myself, and Neely are gonna head out there and get some natural remedies on how we can maybe better to prevent that. But then it is work, so they're gonna be around, but we're gonna do best we can to mitigate that. Yeah,
Possums like ticks. You could have put
there
possums.
you go. If you have a couple possums, Kelly, bring them out.
Yeah, right.
We are
Do
actively
pet
looking.
possum program.
Yeah, we are actively working
Yeah.
to mitigate, so.
Anyone else? I just had super quick, when the software goes down, can people still use the fee machines or do they go down?
The fee machines are able to be used still. I put a ticket in asking them several questions because it's been down all day. And so I did ask the question, which I don't know the answer to, which is, are the permits being sent to our enforcement software, or not? So I don't know if they're not, then we may actually write some tickets to people without permits if they're not being transferred over to our enforcement software. So I did ask that question. The answer yet, but I don't know It's a server issue on their end. I can figure out, but yeah, so first time it's ever been down since we've done it. So we've had this stuff. Yeah, so I was quite surprised this morning when I got the error. So I automatically figured something with my computer. But no, it was not.
All right, we'll keep rolling then with the planning and development report. And that's you, Kurt.
All right. Well, you can see my report. I actually have 3 projects that I consider done. They always come back to get you, but the Stearns Bayou Trail is done as far as I'm concerned, right? We're ready for the event. You can see we put some benches on the bridge. They're awesome place to sit. We also put one a little further down the trail, closer to Kinder Bayou Park, so that's all looking good. Um, Ottawa Sands 2, our 2 main contracts are being closed out. There is some other stuff that we're still working on, getting gas, LP gas to locations and stuff like that. Not part of the main contract, so I consider that substantially complete as far as I'm concerned. And then Grosse Park, we opened up the beach improvement there in time for Memorial Day. And I thought I'd just mention, because Jason Berger mentioned to me, he goes, "What? That looks funny, doesn't it? That beach has got the yellow sand and this grayish material." Well, that's because we're not allowed to put sand in a lake. We are allowed to use pea stone to actually go down in the water. So we're trying that to see if that actually holds the sand a little better in place.
Interesting.
Um, we'll see how it goes. But right now it looks great. We've got a nice little beach. We've got a new little step there, and underneath that, I think I've shown you some pictures before. We put a sheet pile wall all underneath there. So even if all of that sand and all that pea stone washes away, our sidewalk will not. But we hope that doesn't get that far along. And then just to mention, I put a couple pictures of the trail clearing at Makatawa, in the middle of Makatawa area. That is going to be a really cool trail, right? It's natural surface. I didn't get some pictures. There is a lot of work going on at Hawthorne Pond, too, in our new trailhead. So I'll try to get you some pictures of that next report. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I didn't have anything in here, but Nick and I went to the whole conference, the Special Parks District was in Metro Detroit last week. On that next time, what we learned or what we see, things happening. But yeah, very good. See what other people are doing. And just for your information, that was hosted by Oakland County Parks, the Huron Clinton Metro Parks, which is basically looping around the city of Wayne County in the state of Michigan. To highlight some of the stuff they're doing on the riverfront, and they're up North Adventure Center and Belle Isles right now too. So very interesting. So that's all I have, unless you have
Nothing for Kurt. All right, thank you, Kurt. We'll move on to community engagement, and that's Jessica.
Right. So I a few minutes actually to head over to the Friends Board meeting. Starts at 3:30, but I did want to share a little bit about our organization specifically. Wanted to share that we are winding down as an organization. So they've been around for about 20 years. Over the past few years, there's been some waning membership and some struggle to recruit additional board members. And so we've been talking a lot about how to manage that. And what they decided was that it's probably time, now that we have a community engagement division that's handling a lot of the work that they've been doing, that it is time for them to wind down. So there's a little bit of information about that in my report, more information to follow. We're looking at probably having that wrapped up by September, which is when they typically would have their annual meeting. They do have some funds that we are looking at how, what they might do with those. That's actually part of the discussion that I'll have with them today. So they have general fund money, some project fund money, and then they have the Satama Stewardship Fund that we'll have to sort of sort out how that works. Whether that gets spent or, oh my goodness, sorry, just saw that. Whether that gets spent or transitioned elsewhere, have a working committee kind of keep identifying projects. So more information to come with that. A few things that were decided on at the last meeting is that they gave us permission to continue to use the Friends of Ottawa County Parks name and brand, as well as their website domain. So what that means in like non-marketing terms is that name recognition and that brand can still be utilized. So something that we're discussing internally is perhaps our volunteer program becomes the Friends of Ottawa County Park, and all of our volunteers are friends. We kind of get rid of that membership-based part of the organization. As far as the website domain, we'll probably just set up a redirect that goes to the parks website, just to manage any confusion. The president, who is Alice right now, has reached out to members to request permission to share their contact information with parks in an effort to try to bring these folks over to our newsletter list, our mailing list, our email list. Because the idea isn't for their work and for what they're doing to go away. It's to continue to build capacity through kind of rolling it into the community engagement team. So, in theory, like that whole membership base will still be getting regular monthly communications from us. It will just be coming from delivery versus Alice Homan, right? So we're kind of working through what that looks like exactly. Carly's still going to those meetings. I'll be wrap up, and then as they decide on what projects they would like to fund as they wind down, I'll just make sure to keep you guys in the loop about what that looks like. And we pitch to them anything from, buying supplies and materials for specific events to building a kiosk at Tunnel Park I've got pricing for. So we've got a few ideas that we've put pricing up for them, and we'll see what they say. So more information to follow as it all comes together. Otherwise, I will just mention we've got the race this weekend, which Jane will probably talk about at Greater River Park. Of course, you'll see a flurry of emails from us. We pull the June 26th Item Explorers Trail event together. We've wound down our year. Went a little bit late for some districts here, so we had field trips into June, which was pretty crazy, but also really fun. And then summer camp has officially started, and it's been awesome. Obviously, I'll talk a little bit more about that when I report on the month of June and July. But I am excited to share that we did get all of our archery supplies, and it's been really fun to be working with the sheriff's department and their community policing team to work with kiddos and so it's coming together, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, tell your friends that we camp and they should send their kids there. Have any other questions about or otherwise that you might have?
I just have a quick question. Do we work with the non-public schools in the county, the independent schools, some of the Christian schools?
Absolutely. Yep. They are. And I could get a breakdown together. Usually, I pull something like that toward the end of the school year as we get all of our numbers. But yes, a number of parochial schools come out for field trips. We're working. I actually have a meeting that's coming, I guess probably tomorrow. It's Wednesday today, with my program supervisor to talk about serving network homeschool families. So absolutely, any and all schools welcome to join us for a field trip. And
Great. I understand some of the educational programs in Kent County come over?
We do have some folks from GRPS. So they have kind of a special Dune program that is funded by a private donor completely. He went to a presentation in fifth grade class. This was probably years ago now, and was talking about Lake Michigan and kind of getting stares. Realized that, man, most of the kids in in this classroom have never seen Lake Michigan. They're 45 minutes away. So that company pays the invoices for any field trips that get scheduled through this partnership. So they work with PJ Hoffmaster, Gillette Nature Center, and then with us to visit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Great. Anything else for
Else?
Jess? All right, we will keep going with the natural resource management report. Amelie's at an event or.
She's at the, so we are hosting Michigan Conservation Network's annual meeting. So that's where we thought it would be appropriate for her to be there and welcome them, participate in that meeting. But there were just a few highlights I wanted to point out. Happy, well, any of us will try to answer any of the questions. So they've been working, the stewardship team's been working hard on tagging all of the hemlocks at Rosie Mound and then in preparation for treatments there. We also this past month have conducted 2 burns. So one was through contractor, 30 acres at Stearns Creek South. And then internally, we did a small plot of about 3.5 acres on Stearns Creek North. So pretty excited about that. If you haven't had a chance, make it out. It's really, it's incredible, even hanging out there now. Have to look, it's not immediately clear, right? It cleans up so quickly. And then they've established some stations where you can do photos and to encourage the public to take photos, post it to social media, and tag us to help and kind of track that transition over time. Yeah, and then treating, we're kind of moving into the time of year where we treat spotted knapweed along the lake shore, but a lot of other places. And yeah, we included some of our service stewardship volunteer updates information. So,
I'm kind of
happy to-
fascinated if we know the results of the rattlesnake
Yeah.
detection survey. Did we detect any? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll ask.
that's
Probably.
interesting.
I
Had a
mean, they haven't
report of
been.
a rattlesnake in ravines that turned out to be a milk snake. That's what usually happens.
Yeah. Okay.
My husband's on the state Eastern Mass.
Really? Is he?
That would be
They're
super
pretty-
cool.
I
if we
know. I know they're elusive, but yeah.
That's a good
A
question. though.
similar wonder when I was reading through this and I stopped and thought, well, Neely probably would have mentioned something
I know.
as a supplement. Didn't found any.
Yeah.
Did you mention the eastern hognose snake?
No, well, I said the
Yeah.
Eastern Massasauga, that rattlesnakes.
oh.
Michigan has, but yeah. You have an Eastern hognose?
Well, I
story?
did see an eastern hognose for the first time. That
Yeah.
was- yeah.
I've seen a photo and some of our material on the past.
Yeah, I think they posted some of our social media.
Yeah, it must
Some
be.
people have gotten some really
They look like a cobra kind of school parking lot.
Oh, really?
They're pretty common on sands. I've seen them there 3 or 4 times.
Or Sheldon Natural Area, I see it there all the time.
Nice. All right, we'll keep going with the strategic plan progress report. Jason?
Yep, and then I'm sure Aaron will hop in, but we've sent out some information. We reviewed the projects and next strategies to get some input, and then shared that with our planning committee. So, and we talked about talked to Kelly today. One of our options would be to for the July Parks and Rec meeting, Parks Commission meeting. We don't have a whole lot of material that we're aware of. We have one contract, but do a work session since we already have that date set aside in July and try to get the material organized and out to all commissioners a couple weeks ahead of time and do another work session.
Yeah, I'll just add, thanks everybody for a lot of material. That's so really appreciate the county some feedback, and also willing to Paul and Kelly, you know, stuff. But I want to set up something with Lucas and Fields. We'll try to get that in the next couple of weeks, maybe work session just to go on some of those more in the details questions, give you a full feedback and have it can take a lot of time. And give you background and context and everything.
Yeah, I think for those folks who weren't part of the planning committee, it got sent out to the planning committee just to kind of give feedback on, can we digest this information and that kind of how it's presented. So I think we were given and content, but most were given the format of it. So it will get sent to everyone though. A couple, like Jason mentioned, a couple weeks before the next meeting. So
Narrow it, I think it's going to be one of the goals based on that. So you guys got the full Monty.
Well, lots of great feedback, right? A lot of information to digest, so really appreciate it.
One suggestion for it, add a column to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What you have is the initiatives. And I think if you needed to refer to something, it might be easier. Project number 1,627.
And suggesting some stuff that is really not near term, we might to boil it down.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Some other projects, we already took off the acquisitions for that. Maybe not 160 projects, narrow that further down for this discussion. I think that was a great discussion. See how we do that. That's got to take some, but I think that makes sense.
And we might reach out and by folks and get some input, to try to make it as easy as everybody digest, right? 'Cause the goal for us, the staff, is really just to try to build consensus on the priorities as we look to the future. So
Can you clarify for me? I have, on my calendar, I have two Wednesdays, the 16th and the 23rd popped up. It's our meeting date?
it should be the 23rd.
Oh, okay.
I wonder
We
if the
talk
16th is a
that.
I wonder if that's a different
Um,
meeting that we have.
Because there's 5 Wednesdays and
It's the
Second to last
second
Wednesday.
to the last Wednesday. Because we couldn't go the way we used to go, which was much easier to keep track of. Second.
Thursday?
It used to be, but we had to, it didn't work anymore because of deadlines for the commissioners.
Linda, did you have something you wanted
I do have 2 questions.
Thanks.
First one is sort of what you just said. I was at a meeting last night. It doesn't matter what about, but we had done a survey for this group and there were probably things that people thought would be good projects to do. And what we ended up doing is take top 5 because they had enough. So we're not gonna make people look through all the other 95. There'll be on a list that says we might get to this later. So I think that, we had the survey from the people in the community and said what were their top priorities. And I know they don't always know everything that might be on our list that we need to do because of grant money. Like, but for me, if you can narrow me down to a less large,
Yes, that's what I'll talk about.
that actually meets what the people.
I can say from that perspective. Every project ties back to this 5 strategic initiatives. The mission statement to be a leader, which is the way that we got 80% responses in the scientific survey, to be a leader in trails, land conservation, community engagement, education. And that's how that vision. And then in general, the projects are all based on strategic priorities.
And they also need to focus on what people thought were really important priorities. So, for example, we can't put a bathroom in every, bathrooms were high on the list. And so where we can, I'm just saying that they might think that's way more exciting than putting a event center at the, but I don't know. I mean,
There's a lot of questions.
oh, that's good. Was it
Modern
Modern
toilets.
Heated and.
I just think,
Floors and heated, seats and.
I just think we have to keep in mind some of the things that we who get to see a lot more information might think are important might not be the things that the person, that lives in, I don't know, Crockery Township thinks is the most important thing.
Trying to hit us.
Right.
The 6,000
Just a,
participated in these.
just a thought. And the other thing is 2 hours enough, Jason?
Well, I think, what we have to do, I think, yes, because we want longer than 2 hours, it gets really inefficient. And so we the feedback and try to organize it in a way that then Parks Commissioner can input. And then if we need to do another work session, then we do that. Because really, the next phase is getting those in order that logical that meet Kurt's Parks and Rec plan. Shows the roadmap.
I think if you format it too, so there's opportunity for questions.
Yep.
And discussion by commissioners too, because I think you all are really familiar with everything in it.
Right.
We are to some extent, but certainly not to the level that you all.
Right.
Are. So we might have a question here and there, like what exactly, is.
Narrow it down from what you received quite a bit based on the feedback, but at least in the room, some of you will have more familiarity with the details. Since you did go through the review. And I think that will also be helpful in the discussion. So it's not just staff.
So are we should probably commit to that date for the strategic plan.
And then the one question will be, do we have a contract? I would even suggest we forego reports and then, add those to August to give ourselves enough time, more time. We might have one action item we need to do
Okay.
as far as business, but yeah.
Yeah, let's give staff and all the committees a month off for that, and then lay out, like Jason said, if we there's something we have to approve for Kurt or Grant or something, just really quick and then right into the work session. So sound good? All right, great. Anything else you wanted to highlight, Jason, or?
Nope.
Okay. Questions? Are we good? All right. Keep going with the visitor and business services report. Nick.
Afternoon. So lots of things going on in the VBS world. I will say an amazing team at Item Explorers Camp. They've been doing a fabulous job, which has allowed me to kind of step away from being there every day. So I've been able to work out to the marina, visit some parks that I've been to. I've started job shadowing Elaine to attend some of her tours that she does for potential renters, get to learn a little bit more about her facilities, and also start working with some departments in the park. So a lot of stuff going on. Some of the key points, obviously we opened the campground. We had over 150 people at the celebration, which was excellent to see. Campground reservations are off and running. Since we launched the reservation system, booked a total of 206 reservations for 442 nights, resulting in $89,000 in fees collected. We have selected a new campground supervisor. So Josh Marzoff has been interim campground supervisor for me, which is great because Josh also has a pretty strong campground background like I do. So we worked well together getting the SOP where it needed to be. But we've hired Hunter Norris. He is in his third season with Ottawa County Parks at North Beach Park. He has a very impressive leadership background, military experience. So we're excited to have him start Sunday. So over the next couple of weeks, Josh will be working day to day with him, and I'll also be scheduling some training with him as well. Like Jason mentioned, we attended the MParks Directors Legislature meeting in Lansing, which I went last year. This is the second year they've done it. It's a very great program. Got out with some of our folks. And I also attended the Special Park District Forum with Kurt. I was actually fortunate to be invited to the National County Park and Recreation Association meeting. So I was able to meet some folks from around the country. That was great to meet them. And then, as I mentioned, we've been working on the standard operating procedures for Idaho Explorers Camp. Found over the years the best way to kind of start something new is have everything written down. So if you're not sure what you're doing as a staff person, you have a reference guide, your supervisor to go to. So really my task to our staff has been take this initial document and change it the way it needs to be changed. So they're finding things that work well, things that do not work well. And then over the next couple weeks, working with Josh and the staff, kind of refining that SOP so that everyone's on the same page. And then also wanted to mention we brought Brad and Lisa on board as our first campground host at Idaho Explorers Camp. They committed to help us through September, which is amazing. And they actually have some pretty good background in property management, player Airbnbs in the local area, and they've been in the property management world for a long time. So using them as a great resource as well to help us build the campground. A lot of the major stuff, like Kurt says, he can kind of check the box for the campground project. So our staff is kind of transitioned to a lot of the smaller things we got from the test run from our test campers, and we're starting to improve those things. We have some signage going in, so people walk around the campground, if they don't bump into a staff person, be able to get QR code and go right to the website, like the campground, actually see the amazing video tours that Riley put together for us for the years of tree houses. And with that, we've started on a marketing plan for the campground. We want to make sure the word gets out to everybody. So I'm working with Jessica and Riley on that. They've created a Facebook page for the campground, done started some paid marketing on that. Looking forward to finalizing that with them. Yeah, and then moving forward, working with Ben at the marina. He's very talented at what he does there, and he's excited to work with me. We'll be putting some standard operating procedures for the marina as well, just like we did for Item Explorers Camp. And then you can see on report my first attempt at some data for folks. And I will say that the indoor reservation total, what's in the budget and the data in the report. While we have a 12-month reservation window, we collect a lot of fees, but until that reservation happens, it's not actually shown as an actual sale in our budget. So that's why when you see 16%, you're like, hey, we're in June, it's 16%, what's going on? It's because our busy season's June, July, August, and until those reservations happen, it doesn't hit the budget. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Quick question. Have you heard if our membership in the Grand Haven Visitors Bureau is yielding any results with?
Yeah, so Jason and I attended their annual meeting, and we can better information on what their marketing strategy has been and what their target market is. So they have actually this is their website. So we have their own page on their website, direct people to. And then also working with Marcy, I'm working with her to get some analytics from previous marketing campaign to see who's engaging into those ads, so that Jessica Riley and I can take that data and roll it in our marketing plan, so we're not starting at square one. And then also seeing where they're focusing 150 miles and further out, which to me leaves our local regional area is kind of the place we want to kind of start our marketing focus at, since they're already being hit 150 miles out by the CBB. So I think it's a good partnership. We're working out. We haven't done our first assessment transfer of funds yet. So Brandy and I and Mercy will work on that process. I think overall it's going to be a good partnership. I'm excited about it. So, and Jessica is going to be a representative on their board. So.
Yes, I saw that. It might be interesting to see the zip codes of, over time of our folks who are staying at the campground. It'd be interesting to see how many are local, regional, or maybe even international. So hopefully that's something I know we must capture it on the.
Yeah, I will work with Jen and see if we can integrate that.
We can also utilize our Placer subscription to help.
Yep.
Nick, there are a number of regional tourism publications with boilerplate messages, and and so forth. Are we looking at those for next year?
Yeah, right now, so we're creating a market plan. So that'll be something we consider. So working at the New York County Tourism Council, there were some regional groups that we joined to get space onto their website. So that's something we could certainly look at as well as distributing material.
There are also some for-profit organizations that are doing these publications. Some of them are pretty slick. And it might, there are too many, but if we could, if it makes sense to pick a few for next year, we gotta try it.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Great, thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Any questions for Nick? Yeah. All right, we'll keep going with the visitation data. This is our new placer, kind of summary, I guess, synopsis of visitation data. It was good. Yeah, is there anything you wanted to highlight, Aaron? Okay. No, that slide on there that explains what changed. So, yeah, great. Does anyone have questions or just good reference data? So, great. All right, we will keep going and start with the committee reports. I will start executive committee. We met on June 9th. Went over a few things, reviewed the agenda for today's meeting, talked a little bit about the legislative updates. I think Jason did a fantastic job inserting that section to the director's report. It was helpful for me, and hopefully, I think a lot of commissioners appreciate knowing how much work you guys do behind the scenes and up higher levels and so forth with coordination. We talked a little bit about future park staff presentations. Today we have one on grants. Reminder, if anyone has any topics they would like to see or have park staff talk a little bit more about, if we have a later agenda moving forward, we can try to insert 10-minute brief presentations and get to learn a little bit more about what park staff are doing, but feel free to send those my way. Talked a little bit about consumers' energy being on hold with the federal directive. Upcoming events, we've had a lot in starting up in June, busy summer schedule. Talked a little bit about closed session and some property topics there. And just talked a little bit too, I think we'll probably be having our first millage committee meeting next Tuesday at 5 p.m. So get the ball rolling on that, kind of separately, but in concert with the strategic plan. And Jason already mentioned the strategic plan meeting date of July 23rd. At this point, but happy to take any questions anyone might have. All right, we'll keep going with the planning committee, and that is Lucas.
All right, thank you. We did meet on June 3rd, and everyone was present. And so I think I'm just going to highlight, you did a great job of putting these minutes together, but the shining star that attracted my attention was the Fisherman's parking lot at Felix's. So that potential there. So that's a great site, and I was kind of hoping that would end up in the park system. Maybe someday, I don't know, but so between the easement, I believe we received bike path there, and now looking at some fisherman parking. So hopefully that's a potential that comes through. But otherwise, I'll leave it as written, and we'll attempt to answer any questions if you have some.
Quick question, maybe statement too, but so I see there's a discussion about the turf grass reduction plan, and there's some maybe targeted areas at Hager, but I was at Riverside Park this weekend, and there is a lot of crispy grass and grass that no one is ever going to walk on. So I'm assuming maybe there's a list of parks where we're looking at doing this systematically.
So it's,
I would vote for some of those spots at Riverside. They're really, I mean, it's only early June and they already look terrible.
what's interesting is, we all probably can think of some parks where there's an awful lot of lawn area. And what was the total acreage we thought? So we did an analysis, right? And of course, Aaron crunched it's part of one of those strategic initiatives under, and
About 100 total, if you don't count trails. But one thing, and Jason can attest to this, we've quite a lot.
Yeah,
And
okay.
if you go on our GIS, there's an ability to years on different aerials. It's really visible in there.
Yeah.
Not that we can't do it, but I think, yeah, we just
And-
look at it, and some of those sites are just more permanent, like out of 120 acres, right?
Yeah.
It's just the part you experience, but it's not much the our actual land management. It's not a lot. We produce a lot. Thanks to operations, there's been an effort to reduce it. The worst part is probably Hager, that has like 17 acres of just turf, and that's where it comes in. That's where the discussion comes in from public, just trying to, you know, do what we want and also coordinate with a strategic impact.
I know every time I walk up to this building, plantings out front, they just looking better and better, and it's just so lush and beautiful. Not that we would, could replicate or would want to replicate it everywhere, but it just, what a difference, from the landscaping from when I worked for the county to this. It's just so gorgeous, so.
Thank you for noting that.
Oh,
There were lots of bees and
That's
butterflies coming in too.
Any credit for that?
Yes.
No. You out there? Oh.
But I was appreciating the native out here too. Spring, aren't they? Or not? Out here in front
no,
of the
they've
building?
actually reduced, so
They're not.
where the native plantings are, they stopped using
Okay.
those. So, so that was a strategic impacts project that was led, and then Neely's been coordinating with Paul's staff and facility to really look at long-term maintenance plan for all of that, and trying to, Tyler, I think, trying to, look at how to incorporate that in a manner that hopefully then can be replicated if they do it at other county facilities. There's pretty big cost savings on irrigation. Um,
A partial year of data that we assembled last year, so almost 300,000 gallons of water irrigation by converting turf grass to the plantings, and about $6,000 in savings, and that was a partial year. So we're getting more data up over the next year, and it's looking great. It's not, you still get some people that are commenting, they're still used to turf grass. That's what we're educating them on. Process, and there will be signage that will go out front soon to explain how we're doing this, how it works.
And then you have to learn a whole different management practice to maintain those. Notice they did put down some mulch in some of the areas, right? It kind of helps to buffer and transition native to, or from traditional landscape planting to, more of the native. But yeah, it still doesn't necessarily have the irrigation.
And and there's that transition period for all of the grasses and plantings to establish themselves, and that's what people need to understand. Mulch isn't something that you normally want to do, but does just have a mitigation strategy at this point. But proper weeding and setting up the protocols to do it so it's scalable, we need to build capacity, and that's what we're gonna do.
It's a little nuance between strategic impacts and some, there's a lot of our things not irrigated.
Yeah, right.
As Jane mentioned, so
Right.
when we rebrand it, that's not finalized. We got on it, regenerative landscapes. Focus. One of the things about long sites, they're very diverse. Those that know better than me, huge globally, like massive, just really dire. I can't over exaggerate how bad it is. That cured bonds is one of the probably worst things you can do to so anyways, that's how for us, that's our goal. mission statement of natural community.
That's good. I love to see the synergy too between parks and strategic. How we can help each other. And like Strategic Impact has some great resources on their website on which you can just direct people to and videos and that files. So very
I
cool.
And I don't know if, I'm officially a board member on the groundwater board. The Parks Director now has a seat on the groundwater board. So one of the things we've talked about, depending on how the strategic planning projects fall out, is we, work through this process, our own properties. And part of being able to replicate it and do it is, well, we can provide some of that direction and guidance to other public lands, or school districts, or other, local jurisdictions. You see all this grass land, and we might be able to help lead some of those transitions in those areas in conjunction with Paul and his staff. So,
Could I make a comment too? I don't know what, if it was on the report here, there was a before and after. I think it was in Neely's,
Oh, the garlic mustard.
yeah, the garlic mustard. I think it'd be really impressive public to have we would have had a before and then now for even just this area. I don't know if you guys do.
we do.
Okay, but I mean, that way we could do that for, that kind of, or whether it's a Pepper Park or
Right.
wherever, Riverside.
Yeah, visual are so helpful.
It's convinced people easier than.
Yeah.
Well, we said this much on water, say this, well, but we don't like it as well. But if you can show them that, oh yeah, this actually looks, besides being good in other ways.
Not completely. What are we on? Okay,
Sorry.
Planning committee. All right, sorry. All right. Or Paul or whomever else. Finance and policy, and that's Linda.
Yeah, that's, I'm kind of like Lucas, thinking the bulk of it. We are way ahead, thank you, Randy, on our finance and budgeting for this year, than we normally are. And that has a lot to do with how it's organized now and how easy it is to format, to find where we've done. So we discussed the 2026. We discussed the 2026 budget. Our recommendations and notes there. There's the 2026 operating budget, which we are going to have a motion on in a little bit. And I will tell you, there's probably going to be a change as we have that discussion. So making the motion and seconding doesn't mean that you approved it. It means we're going to have it on the agenda to discuss a couple of items. They're included in all of those spreadsheets. I'm sure that line by line is the CIP and the CPM projects. And I think the interesting discussion we had, I don't know, we talked about the Bend area and some money that needs to happen for the Bend, $800,000. And that came up around the millage discussion as well, our fund balance for the end of the year, and what do we want our fund balance to look like? And as again, I've said probably more times you guys here to hear, I'm used to spend it all, wait for next year to show up. Money is not a good thing because, well, they might not get it back. We get to keep money. Good. But what does the fund balance look like? Does it look like we didn't spend any money? Or like we spent too much? Were we, not with our money? Or were we really too stingy with our money? So that conversation went up. So part of that is there's this $800,000 that has to be out of the fund balance, or maybe from the foundation because it's a trail expenditure, the Greenway, we can use money. So I think what we actually decided was maybe we would split the difference, half from half from the foundation and half from fund balance. That will all be discussion that's going to happen when we talk about the budget. I can't thank enough the staff that works on this, the numbers that get put together, keeping track of the numbers, and Brandy, and you don't make enough money, so I don't know what you make, but it's not enough, so.
Well, and kudos to all of our coordinators.
Oh,
So
yes.
they have really done an exceptional job. Nick and Jason and Jessica, you know, and then Kurt and Aaron, and really then Jenny helping get everything together. Randy, so, yeah.
And I think the last thing I want to say is about the village meeting. Can I say something about that? I think it's, not everybody has to be involved with that. That's kind of one of those things that if you're interested, you'll probably get a meeting invitation. You may get a meeting invitation if you're not interested. You can tell if you're not interested. So it's gonna, it'll be a different kind of thing. Happy to answer any questions now and or later.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, Linda. All right, we'll move on to the foundation update, and that is
Well, the breakfast and lunch event went very well. I know that between the breakfast and lunch, most of us were there, so thank you for attending and supporting the foundation. I don't have any figures to share with you at this point. The checks and the donations and the pledges will be coming in for a while yet, but I think Angela is the foundation manager. Is pleased with what's been coming in, and so we're gonna chalk it to a success. Um, Neely's presentation was great, and so it's always nice to have staff share their expertise and um, some stories to the donors. So went off very well. Um, Next up, of course, is the race on Saturday. I'm hoping that there are no thunderstorms. It looks a little iffy right now, but we've got, I think it's going to be close to 400 people. Uh, got 350 or something registered at this point, and so there's always more that come last minute. So that is, I think, this will be the third year, and it's becoming known as kind of a premier local racing event. So it should be really good. Other than that, there has been no board meeting since our last meeting, so I can't update you on anything specifically governance-wise, but the events are kind of taking place right now. So,
I have a question for you and Jason. Any news on what's happening with the fund director, or development director, or whatever we're calling?
So the position posted, it's open this Friday, so it's not too late. Anybody who fundraise can apply. We have a kind of committee of staff folks and HR that will grade it and then try to narrow it down to 4 to candidates for interviews. And we have some folks from the foundation who will participate with myself and human resources to interview them. And the goal is to have a second, have a little more informal meeting for the top 2 with our senior leadership team. And I think we have that blocked out on July 2nd and July 3rd. So hopefully before the next meeting, we'll have a candidate who's been offered.
Thank you.
any other questions for Jane? All right, good report. And for those who are not on community engagement, we were supposed to meet in June, but that canceled. So what, August? Or whatever?
I believe so, yep.
Probably. Okay. All right, so old business, we with the June 2025 grant status report. This is just for information, and I know Aaron will be diving into this during his special presentation. But you
You have one update from the report, or two actually. Okay. One of the things that's outstanding from the Rosemont acquisition trust fund for this opportunity to get an additional 500,000 project. The idea is if we did a couple of steps, this federal funding that's processed through Eagle would come to the project. Part of it would go to the trust fund and replace trust fund dollars so they can use their dollars. A portion of that. So we did, we spent about 12,000 to do, we would do a survey anyway. That's about 5,000. A yellow book, that up to yellow book. And there's a big hurry up and wait. The money's come from to transfer the DNR, and we're going to get some. We didn't know we were hoping for 100. So that will help the overall budget, the improvements. That's great news. It's a sure thing for a team like the DNR really being patient. So help for them and for us. And then
So it's where it says 400,000. That's
It's actually the bottom of page 4, the 2022 acquisition grant, and then top of page 5. So we had 2 acquisition grants from the trust fund. They asked us to split those over 2 cycles, and the landowner was willing to. And then I think it's really, I want to highlight it. They proactively reached out to us and said, "Hey, have some extra money, and we think this is just a great project." And we didn't ever necessarily build it formally in there because there was no guarantee, but it's pretty incredible. So,
and then we had applied also last December for coastal management funding for engineering of the project. We're working on the phase 1 project for it's $50,000, and that's been moved on to the next level. So the state's included in their project list, which is almost as good as funding. It just depends on it's there in their funding pool, their application. It's just how it gets funded. So they feel good after that initial bumpy ride at the beginning. But those are going to come down to them. So that's really good shape there. So those are the main updates. If there's any questions.
great. Thanks, Aaron. Any questions?
Good work.
Yeah. This
you
list is
said.
getting longer and longer.
Oh,
Well, that's true, right? Yeah, the closed ones.
There's a lot of grants. Yeah, 5 grants that will be closed now and come off. And,
I think it also stands to say, kind of like what you were mentioning, pays off because it's recognized that it's a good investment. Partnership. So hats off to you guys for being leaders and being looked to. Something like this happens.
Wait when I talk about this grant request.
Anything else for Jason or Aaron? Right. We will move on to 10B, which will be the new sheet that's passed around. That Jason handed out, the ratification of Lydia Sikori Memorial Bridge naming. Since this is a little bit new or new for some of us,
Yes,
would you mind
please.
just giving
certainly is, and I tried to summarize it quickly here. So in 2016, the Parks Commission kicked off a capital campaign to raise 7.2 million out of 26 million for the Grand River Greenway Item Exploration Trail. So that was even before the Parks Foundation was formed, actually. So that campaign was really completed. There was a campaign committee. Peter Secchia and Monica and Samantha for Plank both all shared that. And then, the county administrator, Al Berg, at the time was also on that committee, and then numerous other people. And then when I came in, I was staff. We completed and closed out the 7.2 million. So through that campaign, there were various naming opportunities that developed in conjunction and input with the Parks Commission. So several segments are named after various donors. And then this in particular was, there was a contribution made by the Verplank family. Um, and then in conjunction with that, there were naming opportunities. for that bridge. So, in light of our recent, naming policy, talked with Kelly and felt like it was appropriate to formally recognize that and have the Parks Commission approve it. And then we will, bring to the Finance Committee all of the other, we have to go back and check some records, but, I think in 2021, after we received the contracts from the Secchia family, we encompassed the whole Greenway campaign and all the funds in a formal agreement between the Parks Commission and the Parks Foundation. So, we just want to double check and see what we approved incorporated in that, but then we'll likely bring forward and just try to formally recognize those other naming obligations that were made as part of that campaign. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Phil and I'm not sure if Phil does, I distinctly knew Lydia Verplank. She was an amazing woman. She, at the age of about 95, she looked like she was 40. She was a very generous, very kind person. I'm really pleased that she was being named after her. Did you know her, Phil? Okay.
So,
Shows how old I am, I guess.
well, this bridge was all, this is what it's named. This is just a dotting i's, crossing t's.
And
That's what the folks that decided before it was us to decide, but this is to help us with the policy
Yep.
process. So
Yep.
you don't get to change your minds today. I'm just telling you.
Thanks for that personal anecdote, field, because I was wondering, a little bit
So I would move that we approve the naming of the Idaho Sports Trail pedestrian bridge over the Stearns bylaws, the Lydia Sikori Verplank Memorial Bridge, in accordance with the Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Commission naming policy and the donor recognition framework established as part of the Greenway campaign.
Okay, great. Thank you, Phil and Phil. Any further questions? Comments? Great. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thanks for bringing this, Jason. This
No,
was
it was a great,
fantastic.
and I look forward to bringing the rest of it. It's great information, and it's been worked for a long time.
Generous donors for sure. All right, moving on to new business at 11A, adoption of the 2026 parks budget. So this was discussed with finance and policy last week.
Yes,
Okay.
ongoing since probably April.
Oh, here we go. All right,
I'll
so
make the motion to approve the proposed 2026 budget.
okay, thanks, Linda.
support.
Okay. All right,
So-
discussion.
Yeah, I want to, so if you have around these spreadsheets, you might notice, or you might not, it depends on how you get. There is, this was a budget that was, we had a negative budget by roughly $200,000. Is that right, Brandon?
31.
231, okay. It really isn't. But it looks like it is, but it really isn't. So Jason and I talked, and what we have decided to do, and I think there are a couple things that we are technically going to pull out right now. And because most of this is in the CIP budget. And as we have a more an official look at what our numbers really look like, we will add. And Jason is going to send that, you're going to have to, there's a little trust here. Jason is going to send out a new spreadsheet with that not being a negative number, will be on budget target within our means. Technically, we're within our means. I mean, we can take money from the fund balance, but that's not what we want to do. And with the village coming up, optics are a whole other thing. So if you will trust that we are going to fix that, Jason 3 pages, 'cause I know he knows where it is. We are going to remove what 2 things, Jason?
Well, I got it. Sorry, I
Might be
didn't.
3.
What kind of-
Go ahead. if
No, no,
there's-
that's okay.
No, you go ahead. Let me. There's other questions.
Yeah, I guess maybe, I think if are able with this, I think if, for people who have the PDF, what the numbers Lynn is talking about are on page 63 of the PDF of the parks packet, or the one that's entitled, Special Revenue Fund Summary. That's kind of the overall budget. And then you can see the third to the bottom line says revenues over under expenditures. So right now, the budget is presented with revenues or expenditures exceeding revenue next year, 2026. So what we're talking about is potentially eliminating some expenditures to get that to an even or positive number, so the revenue is greater than our expenditures. And Jason and others have qualified this as we're not over budget on our operating revenue, but the overall parks budget is because we have to shift funds to some of the capital projects. That's how it's been mapped out for years.
And this
Not yet, really jump in if I'm saying anything incorrectly. So, but it's still, the overall budget is still, our expenses are greater than our revenues by $231,000 right now.
Yes, and then no. I mean, yeah, that's accurate with the construct of what we actually know right now, but we also know from history that we'll have that money, and we
Hopefully.
have. I mean, we have actually had deficit budgets in the past. But just the way that they were shown to us.
So, and see, that's what I'll explain a little bit throughout. And as we approach the millage, the next millage cycle, depending on where we land on things, the Parks and Rec plan then identifies all of the capital projects that we do for each year that will be part of that recreation plan for 5 years. We'll look at throughout the whole 10-year millage cycle. So the first thing, right, we sometimes doesn't get said enough is in the next levy cycle, we're automatically off the top saying a little over $1 million each year just to go with renovations and maintenance projects. So as we look at some of those calculations, that's part of that. Now, it's a technicality right now. uh, um, All of the millage dollars goes into, we call our general fund, 2081. So what makes it appear like we're spending more is then from a fiscal services standpoint, they like it to show that $1 million. This year it's 890,681. So that includes our bond payment for the marina. So, in the future, we'll likely have a policy that just, when those revenues come in, the ones that are allocated for the capital will just be deposited, for the rec plan will be deposited directly into the CIP fund, and then our operating funds will come in here. So you won't have that debit out here. So without that, we're 600,000, give or take, under our operating expenses. And actually in the 2024 budget, but that was before Brandy, and they don't like it. They don't particularly like it that way. But I did it for this very reason. It makes it difficult to track your operating expenses because there's variance year to year on how much you're allocating for your capital project. Can have huge fluctuations. So
So if you will trust that There is a
Well,
level of trust that they are going to pull appropriate amount of money to make it zero base budget will be even.
Well, the motion be,
Pending
well,
that.
how about, well, what I would just say is if it could be to present to reduce, right? So we know we need to reduce the capital budget. So a combination of the capital and the operating budget by 232,000 would give us a positive if I can do.
I'd be willing, I'd take a friendly amendment to my motion.
I'm questioning whether we can just table this until our next meeting.
Table it, then because we know we can make this money.
Well,
$232,000 is not a big deal. It is daily for the most normal people, but not in this budget. So if we table it now, then we get behind the budget process for the board.
well, I just, I'm, you know, vagueness when it comes to things like budgets, but if it's okay, that's fine.
We can make whatever work because we can submit this to, to the fiscal services right now, and they'll have to adjust to meet their timeline before it would be finalized. We would need to approve it in July. Brandy would need to go in and amend what's been put in there. Actually, she won't even have access to the 26 numbers, but it can be done. And then that way, right, we can line item and explain where those 230,000 come from, and I'm fine with that also. So we can make this, right?
Yeah.
Somebody above, I don't know if
Someone's-
that's a good thing or a,
There's a motion.
Well, yeah, okay. I thought how are we behind? I thought we were ahead on the budget process.
If you wait another month, and then we add this to the strategic planning meeting, which we already know it's gonna take. Now we could be talking about August.
we are ahead in the budget process. I just, we normally are late by there. Well, it's because the Parks Commission, in my, right, the Parks Commission needs to approve the recommendation that goes into the board. So I've always not given it to them, and so we are ahead. And it just, some internal technicalities, right, that it'll still work. It'll work if we wait a month.
I guess I'm kind of
Well, then
with
you need to
field on,
Then
I don't want to vote on something like saying the Parks Commission approved the annual budget without the actual numbers.
somebody needs to make a motion to table, and that needs a second.
I mean,
and
we
then-
can put it to a vote.
I mean, if that's, we're gonna do it, the process is whoever makes a tabling motion, a second, and then a majority. And then that just stops the conversation.
Correct. Correct.
I'll second it.
I made the motion and I'm seconded. I'm wondering also, if, and I know that, I'm wondering if we could get a half an hour early next.
Well, that's not a part of the tabling motion. So the
No.
tabling motion is
Right.
like the, call the question motion. You have to make.
Has
the
to, yeah,
All right, we'll put it to a vote then for tabling.
Is there an existing motion?
Yes.
That was the original motion for 11A. And the subsequent,
and I
the tabling motion is now an additional motion within there, and that's the legal part. Made a motion. and
there
then
was a motion and a second, and now there's a motion.
To, or to table?
Oh,
The
to
table.
Okay.
Have to vote on tabling at right now. So everybody ready to vote?
Yep.
We'll try it this way. All those in favor say tabling. Oh,
Okay, so a yes vote would be to table. To go on.
okay.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
It's fine. We're ahead.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. So we have two. Okay. Okay, the tabling motion carries, so we look to,
so then we will have the
original motion comes back with
But
new,
we'll have the amended numbers for next month's meeting that reflect
and the finance,
exactly where that $231,000 is.
the finance meeting committee will see it first.
And then at the next meeting, we'll look to take it, table, hopefully vote on it.
On it.
Okay. All right, thanks, everybody.
Were there any other questions on the budget? Just or any other information folks would like to?
You all went through the budget. Did you make a bunch of changes?
Finance committee did
Finance
not.
committee?
Yeah, no, that's.
We
yeah.
did not. We were okay with the way it came to us.
Right.
Most of us were.
The ex officio,
Yeah.
let's put it this
We
way.
had a track up down
The ex officio
Oh, it's just my opinion. That's
One of the relevant discussion points too that Linda brought up in the committee meeting was, tied to the expectation of our citizens and our voters with our millage, which is a big part of our budget. Are they, what's our obligation to those folks in terms of $3.7 million? If we can pull 231 from that and move on. So are we sitting on a big pile of money conceptually that we could be using for our parks versus fiscal responsibility to buffer ourselves against possible catastrophic events? So there's no, I mean, there's a line there where it becomes too much or too little. We just discussed the importance of also kind of considering that issue. What do we owe to our voters in terms of sitting on how much of a fund balance is too much and how much is
And does 231, 232 affect the fund balance that much from 3.7?
so that's just something to, keep in mind.
anything else. All right. Okay, we'll move on to 11B, which is the potential Idaho Foundation grant application. Did you want to share any information on that, Jason?
Yes. All right. So I think, right, everybody's familiar with the Idema Foundation, uh, presenting donor with the Idema Explorers Trail as well as the Idema Explorers Camp. They're a small foundation that's based out of Grand Rapids. They this past year had some transition with their staff. Um, So I was able to provide a tour of some of the Idema Explorers trails. We looked at some of the various segments that are complete, as well as some of the areas that we're working on, Aaron and myself, and then our parks champion, Myron Aldring, who's been, he was on the campaign committee and also has helped champion us with the foundation. So the, during the course of the tour, the staff member encouraged us to apply for their a new grant. They have their board meeting this week. So we had been working on 3 different projects for a couple of years. Um, the last, we were supposed to present to the board last year, and they let us know that that wasn't necessary. The project at that time that we had been really working hard on, incorporated the Moss House at Bend area. It had the design and feasibility work we had, led us to realize that that project was quite a bit more expensive than what we wanted, so we were okay with not moving anything forward. So we have, since Monday afternoon, Kurt and I and Aaron have been working, brainstorming various projects. Because our goal would be to, you know, put in a project request to them. Um, and so we've evaluated 4 different projects Historically, they have been involved through family ties and um, association with the Grand River Greenway. So three of the projects are the Grand River Greenway. The one we were looking at, is there a possibility? We have a feasibility study going on with Eastmanville Farm and the barn there. But we just feel like although we think it's a great project and will lend itself to fundraising in the future, just feasibility information, we don't have enough back yet to feel comfortable putting in a request for that. The other obvious one is the Rosemount project. So we still have a little bit of campaign left for phase one acquisition and development. But it's not necessarily tied to the Greenway. So the two other projects, one would be the riverfront. So we call it the Item Explorers Riverfront Plaza at Sands, the boardwalk along the SAG, as well as there's a Greenway Plaza uh, for the Item Explorers Trail, the Greenway Plaza. It will include the riverfront stabilization. So we've had some engineering work already preliminarily done on that, as well as doing renovations to the Rusting Dolphins and incorporate some of that, as well as courtesy docks. And then there's a dune overlook tower that if anybody's been to Mount Pisgah, it would be very similar to that. So you'd be able to climb up these steps to the south of where the riverfront is now, uh, and be able to see both Spring Lake and Lake. And we think that in and of itself would be enticing project. It's in the master plan, and we have really good engineering costs. Although some of it's still preliminary on the riverfront stabilization. Um, it, we did a feasibility for the foundation in conjunction with them. We updated all of those numbers a couple years ago for the master plan. And then the fourth project that we think is probably the most desirable is doing um, the Explorer Center at the Bend area. So it would be initial improvements of the property that we are getting ready to acquire from Great Rapids Gravel. In those concept plans, they have access improvements, trails, as well as multi-purpose facilities. So we would propose um, Explorer Center at the Bend area to incorporate access, trails, and then a multi-purpose facility that would accommodate education, outdoor education, public use, and then have public restrooms. So um, we feel like we have enough information with our recent construction engineering and then the feasibility work we did at the Bend area already to put together a project um, that would be enticing to them. So right now we, internally have a project. So one at Sands at the riverfront, and then one at the area. So, and Aaron or Kurt, you want to? Our next steps would be if they need a formal motion, but we can put in the request to Dynamo Foundation, and then there would be a grant contract at some point. And if it would be the Bend area, we need to do quite a bit more planning to refine that project, the scope of that project.
There's $232,000 that we might use for 2026 budget. Seriously, in the Bend area that we have. budgeted.
Well, yes, I don't know if it's anything, and we have, like, look at that, probably not. It's not that, I don't know if it's that easy, so we do have 20,000 next year for initial site improvement. We would anticipate a multi-million dollar,
Right, but
similar to what, actually probably bigger than you would shoot for something, the Item Explorers. So I think.
just a thought.
Jason, is there any possibility that the money could be used to purchase additional right-of-way along the planned item, the trail, the Greenway Trail along the Grand River? Is there just any possibility of using it to just buy more?
Um, that has not been something that we've been made aware that would be enticing to them to fund. So some of our other projects, so land acquisition, talked about for conservation purposes. Also, we have this idea that we've been working on with the interpretive notes in placemaking that then would have the historical and cultural interpretation themed, and we've been led to believe that would be very enticing too. So they we've been encouraged for bricks and mortar type of.
When you build bricks and mortar, you gotta maintain them, you have to staff them, becomes additional costs, and I personally, as you know, am concerned about our buildings and maintaining. I am also concerned that we complete the green along the Grand River. I think that's a very, very important, priority for us, at least for me. And I just, yeah, I asked the question. If there's no possibility of buying more land at the moment, then I understand. But I would think that since it's kind of, they've been very involved in that from the beginning, I think they might.
I think that parents, they already, their donation for 2 million they gave to the Grand River Green campaign for the trail included the final acquisitions we needed to complete. So that'd be like asking again.
Yeah. Same thing.
Just an update to that. Currently, as the budget have the funding to do acquisitions that we need for the trail. So there's not many left. There's just about, and those are all budgeted right now. That includes some trust
Some,
fund grants.
and it would be some into the next village.
Yeah. But as far as the core acquisitions we use for the trail, we're considering other factors like ongoing mining and stuff.
So the one positive about the Bend area is the plan has always been that it would be like mini Millennium Park, and they operate there and they collect their swimming. So there is a part of that concept plan includes a swimming beach at the Bend area, so that would lend itself then to the possibility to generate revenue at that site, to help offset those operations. Um,
Is there a master plan somewhere?
So there's not a formal master plan for the Bend area. There's,
Plan
well,
conducted in
right. There's one done in 2000, and that's but, right, in our last, Parks and Rec plan, we have a concept plan that says, we'll update that, so.
And I think a couple things as far as that is, there was always, and Kurt, I think we elaborate this, have some kind of large facility at the end area. The key thing about it, engagement focused, is the trust fund doesn't allow you to build just an enclosed structure that's not, doesn't include outdoor education. So, and this land will be purchased with trust fund dollars, so technically even some of the buildings we have that are existing, spaces shouldn't be just event spaces.
Well, I think it's a testament to the relationship that staff has built up with the Idema Foundation that now potentially another very large gift is going to be given to us. And it sounds to me like there are enough projects that are consistent with plans we've already made that would appeal to to move forward. I mean, I appreciate the concern about maintaining facilities, that you build. But the boardwalk is in the master plan, and the for Ottawa Sands, we already always intended for that to happen. So, I commend all the work that's gone into building, maintaining this relationship with the Idema Foundation. Clearly, it's continuing to bear fruit. So well done.
And as far as previous plans were something like that. So that also has a precedent, and you're looking to locate something like that, logically, I want probably the vendor is do it, not just not ideal at the some of the community engagement. Have it right over park, hard to do because that's in the flood plain. This is upland. It's land that this is really not a great shape. It will look better once we do the reclamation as part of the purchase. But for a lot of reasons, and the county, the fastest, most rapid growing area in the county, connection to Kent County. That's one thing about the board. Everybody that lives in Kent County that's on that board, including somebody that's on the action to have some network nonprofit that's based in Grand Rapids. So this other context about why you might want to include that area project. I think it'd be easier as the Ottawa Saints all.
So the Bend area's always been a not new anymore, but I still feel like I don't fully area project, and I'm looking at the website right now, and Jane, I totally agree with what Jane said. You know, other projects sound great. I think maybe a future meeting dig into the Bend area a little bit more. Maybe our planning side of things too, in the planning meetings. If we're looking at a plan that dates back to 2000, so that's just a side note that I think, and I feel probably appreciate that too. You know, Martin as well, just 'cause it's been going on for quite a while, and it'd be of interest.
Yeah, it's a just quickly, planning since 2000, acquisition since 2007. This would increase the park to 600 acres. This will almost give us all the shoreline of the 43-acre lake right there. So it is, I think that if you fit just like it has some space to have some of the same level of usage. Millennium Park is a very, very busy park. I think there's the base, even with the usage at Grand. For a park to have that, and Hager Park, that like, they're like 600,000 visits a year there. I think we can still support a large amount of visits too. And Chris mentioned she loves to go from Idaho Foundation that she lives by Millennium Park, loves to go right by where she lives to go skiing. And this would be, goes back to the 1989 Parks Plan. We were looking at inland lakes way back at the start Parks Commission. It actually predates 2000.
I actually think what you just said is really kind of critical for us all. The other side of the county. We haven't done anything really on the other side. They get left out. So one of the things to remember is the other side of the county. They get tired of hearing about the lake.
And I think one of the appealing things, and we talked a lot about this, is when we do this acquisition, then we'll have one more that might be several years off. But we'll make access improvements to, and this, although yes, there might be a facility that has additional expenses, infrastructure, the utilities, parking, and creating that initial trail network. This would help fund all of that. It's that for me is one of the reasons why it's we have a couple projects at Ottawa Sands we think would suffice. There's the lake project also at um, the lakefront that, but, again, it's out on the west side, and this one, kind of checks a lot of the boxes.
One additional thing of context is
Next to it.
just to know on that side of the county, they just announced buying land, right, which is actually right on the border, almost directly across from the first $100 million aquarium, which will have a lot of bleed off. It's a 198%, which we have a lot of facilities. Again, with further, probably some agglomeration of different things along the green, raise the green profile, and again, support having more amenities in the area and off. That's another big thing happening in the area that it's going to greenway is really getting transformative of all the stuff that's happening. We're doing like $1 billion in investments over in that area right now. So just wanted to use that context too.
So Lucas, I will put that on the agenda for the committee. I do have actually one clarification. The original master plan was done in 2000, was updated in 2010 by the original consultant, and then Mark lately is my concept, which is based on all the latest information about where they're going to mine and where they aren't going to mine. That really has changed how we look at the site and the improvements that will be done as part of this purchase. Restorations are in line with that concept. So all three of those concepts are in the parks plan. If you look in that section, you want to see a little bit more, but it's hard to see in the plan. It's a very small plan. But
21.
the 2021
Okay.
Parks Plan has all three of those, the 2000, the 2010, and then my more recent concept that I think is more accurate.
They're little snapshots, right?
Yeah, they're just little
So
snapshots.
each
So
of
we can
the-
bring the whole big plan, right, accurately. So we're happy to do that, although that doesn't help us right now because we need information to be presented next week. So.
And I'm not hearing anyone saying, don't move ahead. Definitely move ahead. And I think as we establish a more formal relationship with them, we'll get a lot more information. But yeah.
But I understand we're applying right now for a $3 or $4 million grant. So you're asking us to do that at this meeting to.
So there, at some
inform
point in
us.
time, if they
Okay.
would be willing to fund it, they would see this grant agreement.
That's fine.
The Parks Commission, we would have the Parks Commission, the foundation, and the Board of Commissioners all.
So would there be a presentation to them of some options, or basically proposed as this one concept that?
We'll try to propose this one concept and have it broad enough that it's enticing to them, but then also you allow some flexibility to adjust as we get into a little bit more of the planning and detail work. We would submit both the riverfront at Ottawa Sands and the Bend area, and ask them to fund one of them.
Both.
I think in the past, you guys have taken them
Aaron
several
loves grants,
options,
don't you?
and like some of the things are like, oh, that's not of interest to us, and they'll pick.
And they've heard about the riverfront project. In the past, we were led to believe it's a little far to the west. But now, everything's going
Well,
great.
I agree with Linda, the idea of doing something in the east. I just,
I'm willing to do whatever people want to give us money for within reason.
If it fits with our strategic initiatives and the plans that we've already made, I don't see any reason not to accept toward those already established preferences and goals.
I mean, I will say this deal, I've mentioned this before, although I don't think we've had any success getting people to donate a substantial amount to it. Endow it also, right? So that there is money that can be earning interest for when it needs to.
And so one of our, with Rosie Mound, we've essentially done that. So we have just about $1 million that we're raising for the acquisition and first phase of development. We're 75, 80% there, hitting that goal. And then we built in, I think, 25% to help with future major renovations or that then will be held by the foundation.
We haven't had that experience with this foundation. Some foundations had it, but we wanted to consider corporate request. It's different. Every foundation is different.
We're good?
Yep.
Everybody's good? Okay. Can I propose, Aaron, that, since you're up next, is there any chance that we can do that next month?
Definitely. Well,
Oh, yeah,
work
sorry.
session and then-
August, is that too
Yeah.
late for everybody?
yeah, and then we'll push back.
If
um,
we some time, I know some folks.
He's joking.
Sorry. Well, you can maybe just update it a little bit, but it's stuff, so, yeah, would that be okay with everyone?
There have more time
So
to
would I.
talk to Aaron about it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sarah, I appreciate it. What's that? Oh.
The materials and, right, he had a,
Teaser, you can update it. All right, the second public comment. I do not see anyone in the audience or online who would like to make public comment. Submit it in writing to the Planning Commission at the email address in the comments of the YouTube stream. So we'll wrap up with, we do have a closed session, but Commissioner's prerogative first. Lauren, Paul. Okay, Bruce.
I just want to say I really appreciate the grant synopsis that the slides about the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund, and it was clarifying for me. It was in my head before, but the numbers they allow what the requirements are and criteria scoring, and that was enlightening for me. Thank you. Appreciate
Just real quick in the, thinking about our coastal dunes and how globally significant they are. And I, the only person that I've talked to in my time here in Ottawa County is Deanna Van Dyke from Calvin College, who is a professor there and studied the dune formations and the migration. And I think we all know that they're special and globally special. I'd be interested in maybe bringing someone in or having someone give a presentation about the uniqueness of the dune lands that we have along our coastline here. So,
Well, I just wanted to add, we're working with Algro, GEI, and all the people that, in a way, for this study, coastal corridor conservation plan. I did want to mention there's some great stuff about the dunes and ecosystems. Stuff about
Yeah.
Graphics for that, so maybe we can coordinate it with that. That should be released probably this fall. So it's focused on from kind of Port Sheldon to like north.
thank you. That's all.
Good idea. Jane?
Nothing for me.
Linda? Bill? Martin? Field? All right. Okay, so we will need a motion to go into closed session. That's the end of our agenda. So,
Or should we close session?
yeah, motion. I was moving right to the wall. Yeah, thanks, Linda. Quick second. Okay, thanks, Bruce. All right, the roll.
Bush is absent. Greenlee,
Here.
Harris,
Yes.
Hill,
Bill, I do it all the time.
Bruce Hill, did you vote?
Yeah, did I say yes?
no, not yet. Okay. Hire, Longstreet,
Yes.
McCaffrey,
Yes.
Reichart, Rice, Sack.
Like a long thrower.
I'm sorry, Kelly, I do have to.